Hope my laptop screen is visible to everyone up here.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yes, sir. Sir.
Okay, so in the previous class, we guys were discussing about variables, right? Some of you were not able to understand the concept of variables. See, variables are storage spaces in which we can store any value. Fine. If suppose you want to declare, if suppose you want to use a variable in JavaScript platform, then what you have to do, you have to declare that variable first. You have to declare that variable first. And how can you declare a variable? There is a very simple syntax that you can use for declaring a variable. Var x. So this data type, this thing which you're using is for declaring the variable, and this is the name of the variable which we have defined over here. If you want to change the name of the variable, you can change it to y also. You can use yu also. You can use a variable like gh also. It is totally your call. Okay, whatever name you want to give to your variable which you want to use in your program. Okay, now suppose if you want to use x. So after doing this, after writing this var x, you need to put a semicolon. Fine. So what has happened here? You have declared this variable x over here. Okay. Now how can you use this variable? So for doing that, let's come on the design part of this app and create a new screen. So this is a screen 3 which I have created. Now I am making this a default screen. There are some students waiting in the waiting room. Just a second. No, it is fine. So once you are done with declaring a variable, how can you assign a value to that variable? X is equals to 1. So here what we have done, we have assigned this value 1 to this variable x. Okay. Now if you want to see how, if you want to see the value of x in the watcher section, how you can do that? So for doing that, you need to run the app. Okay, and here when you'll click on this, you will be able to see this variable slash property kind of thing over here. Fine. Now here inside this bracket, you need to write down x, and when you will hit enter button, automatically you will see that the value of x is going to get reflected over here. So right now the value of x is equals to 1. Fine. If you want to enter the value of x during the runtime, during the time when the app is in running mode, how can you do that? So for doing that, what you guys can do, you guys can make use of this block, which is var x prompt num. You can place it over here. Okay, just place it over here, and you can remove this whole thing. So which block I have used over here? This one, var x is equals to prompt num. And what it will do, when you will run the app, automatically this window is going to appear on the top of the app. Now what is it asking? Enter a value. Now if you will see in the watcher section, you will not be able to open the watcher section until and unless you will enter a value over here. So let's enter, let's say 56, and click on OK button. And then when you'll come on this watcher section, you will see that the value of x is equals to 56 right now. Okay, so that's how you can enter the value of any particular variable or two or more variables during the running time, during the time when the this app is running. And why we are calling it a variable? Because we can change its value to anything during the runtime. So that is the reason we call it a variable. Fine. If you want to write down the value of this variable on this screen 3, we need to make this the default screen first. Okay, if you want to write down this variable's value here on this screen, how can you do that? For doing that, there is a command called write, okay, with which you can write down anything, whatever you want on this mobile simulator screen. So if you want to print the value of x, this is a command that we use in JavaScript. Remember this thing. When if we'll talk about C or C++, we guys use printf or cout command in C++ for writing something on the output window. If you want to write down something on the platform of on a JavaScript platform on the output window, so you guys have to make use of this write command, write x. So what will happen? Whatever you're going to enter here, whatever value, suppose this is a value you have entered over here in this box, and when you will hit this OK button, see this value is getting reflected over here. Are you all able to see this value over here? Okay, so this is how you guys can write down something on this mobile simulator screen using this simple command, that is write command. Okay,
Okay, sure.
now let's come on. Just a second. Let me remove this whole thing, and I'm going to create a new app for you guys today.
नया ही कराने लगे पिछला लिंक नहीं आ था
Beta, can you all put yourself on mute? There is some noise coming from the background of. So here we are going to make a timer kind of thing today. Okay, using these blocks which are present over here, right in the bottom of this controls part of toolbox. Okay, with these blocks we are going to make a timer kind of thing. Now for this, the first thing that I require is this label. I'm putting this label over here. Let's increase the font size of this label, and I'm replacing the text which is getting reflected right now to time. Okay, and I'm putting it over here right on the top. Let's make it in black. Okay, and I'm removing this thing from here. And here we are going to have one more text. Where is that text? Sorry, not text, it is label box which we need to use. And we are going to put here 0. Or else, okay, let's increase the font size to this much. Yeah, this much is fine. If you want, you can place it like this also. It is totally your call. The way you want to design it, you can design it in that way. And let's increase the width of this. Just a second, let me check whether there is anyone in the waiting room or not. Yeah. So these are two label boxes which I've placed over here, and I'm changing the color of this text to black. Let's put two buttons right in the bottom of this mobile simulator with which we can turn on and turn off the timer. So this one, I'm going to rename it to stop. The idea of this one is stop. And the text which I would like to get reflected over here on the top of this button is this, that is a stop. And similarly, sorry, not stop, this should be start, and this one is for start, and this one is for stopping the timer. Stop, and here also stop. Okay, and I am changing the color of this one to green. And let's change the color of this one to red, and this, I think this one is fine. Yeah, this one will do. Okay, so after this if you want to change the design of this mobile simulator, there is one more option that you guys can use. You have to click on this drop down and you will be able to see several options over here.
So,
You can make use of this classic theme
so,
also. Yes, who's this?
so what are we making a timer or the will show the time in it?
We are making a timer right now, dear.
So
So
why
there are
have you
several.
written time at over there?
Just hold on for a moment, dear. So there are various themes you guys can make use of for your for designing your app. If you want to go for this, you can go for this also. If you want to see a design like this, you
So
can
what?
do that. So that's how you can change the theme of your app if you want to. Can you all please put yourself on mute? There is a lot of noise coming from the background. Kindly put yourself on mute,
Sir,
please.
it's Shubh.
For now, I am making it white. All of you, please put yourself on mute. Who is there on unmute? Let me. Now it is fine. So, besides, I would like the text also to be of white color.
Sir, sir,
Yes, yes, dear.
sir, what is a coding update button? I was actually absent in that class because I do not have net.
I'll not be able to help you in that case, dear. Just hold on for a moment. Right now, we are developing something else. Once we are done with that, I will go on. I will, go on that part and tell you whatever your issue is. Okay, so I'm done with the designing part. Now let's come on the coding section. So, so first of all, we are going to define the code for this start button. Okay, let's put this on even block here first. What is the idea of this button? It is a start, so we need to change it to start. When the user will hit the start button, I would like to see the timer on. I would like that the timer should get on. And how can I do that? For doing that, I can make use of this timed loop block. Okay, and here let's convert it back into text-based coding. X is equals to X. We need a variable. We need to define a variable first. So I'm defining a variable X over here, and I'm assigning a value also to it. So in this way you can declare a variable and assign it a value in a single line. You don't have to write down a separate line for assigning a different value to this variable. The declaration and initialization, you can do it in one single line. Now in this timed loop, I would like this value of variable to get incremented by 1 every time this timed loop will be called. Okay, so that's how I
So
can
can
do
I
it.
tell how can I do it? So can I
No,
tell?
dear, just hold on your horses, dear. Now I want the value of X to get reflected over here. Okay, I want the value of X to get reflected over here. How can I do that? So I need to set the text of this label box. For doing that, we can make use of this set text block and we can put it over here. What is the idea of this? It is labeled to. So we can put here label 2, and in place of this text, we can write down X. Now let's see when we'll run this app and hit this start button, what is going to happen. So when you'll hit the start button, the value of X is getting incremented. No? So that is the reason the value of X is, whatever the value of X is, it will get reflected over here like this. Fine. Similarly, if you want to check out the value of X, you can make use of the watcher section for doing the same. So you need to put here X and then you need to hit enter button. automatically you will see the value of x over here. It is also changing, right? So whatever the value of x is, you will be able to see it here also, and you can verify it from this watcher section too. Now, if you want to stop this timer, okay, so what you guys can do, you guys can make use of this stop button. Let's define the code for this stop button. So for doing that, we need to again make use of this on event block. ID of this button is stop. So we need to change it to stop, and there is a block over here which you guys can make use of for stopping the timer. This is the block, stop timed loop. Let's put it over here, and let's see what is going to happen if we'll hit this run button to run the app. Let's start the timer. So the timer is on right now. If we'll hit this stop button, let's see whether the timer will be able to stop the timer or not. So the timer is now stopped. Let's hit this start button again and see what is going to happen. So again, the timer is on. Fine. Now, if you want to see the timer, see, right now, if you'll start the timer, it is going to begin from 0. Okay, if you will hit this stop button, it will stop on, let's say it stops on 5 right now. If you want to start it again from 0, what can you do? Can anyone answer that question of mine? How
Sir,
can
can I?
we again
Sir,
from
can
0?
I?
With a one by one, you can make use of that raise hand facility which is available on this platform, no? To tell me that. Yes, Himarsha, how can we make it begin from 0 again, dear?
Sir, may
So
I tell?
whenever we stop the time loop, we should set the x value to 0, and
Excellent,
as
dear.
it
So we can
happens,
do it like this, right? We can do it
yes,
like this.
yes,
Whenever this button will be clicked, the value of x is going to go 0. Okay, now let's see what is the value of x. Right now it is 0, है ना? And
yes,
when you will hit this start button, you will be able to see that it will again start from 0 only. So that's how you can change the value of x. This is the reason why we call this thing a variable, because we can change the value of this thing, okay, during the runtime. Now let's see how can we create dynamic controls. So for that I will be need, let's not, instead of using a new screen, what we can do, let's put a button over here. I am putting one more button over here. Okay, this one. And I am changing the background color to uh, pink, and this one. Okay, coming back to the coding section. Let's change the ID of this to visible. I'm defining an uneven block for this. See, initially, I don't want these two buttons to be visible to the user. So for doing that, what I can do, if I don't want that these two buttons should be visible to the user when he access this app on his device. So for doing that, I can make use of this property. There is a block called hide element with which you can hide any element. So this is the one which I am making use of. Okay, and I'm going to hide both these buttons that I've defined over here. One is with ID start and the second one with ID stop. Where is that start? Yeah, this is the one, and this is for the stop button. Now, how can you, I see what I want is when the user click on this button, I want the user can see both these buttons. So
Can
for
I
doing
answer?
that, I can make use of this show element block, right? And I can put two show elements block over here and replace this ID thing with this start and this one with stop. Let's now see what is going to happen if we'll run this application. So for
So you
that, I
haven't
am
changed the
going to,
ID in the on event.
sorry, I haven't changed the ID in what beta?
The last
Acha,
on
this
event.
one, okay. It should be visible, right? It should be visible over here. Yeah. So now let's see what is going to happen if we run the app on one of the tabs of this browser. So I'm running this app on a new browser, new tab. So at present, only this visible button is appearing on this screen. Now, when you will hit this visible button, these two buttons will be visible to the user. So, that's how also you can code this app. Now, how can you create dynamic, dynamic elements or dynamic components? What are dynamic components? That's what we need to understand first. See, we have made use of this designing part in order to define these components over here, right? But I want, if you want that a button should be visible to the user only during the runtime, but it should not be visible to the user during the designing time, during the time when he is coding the app or when he is designing the app. Then how can you do that? So for that, what you can do, you can make use of these four blocks which are visible to you right now. If you want to create a dynamic block, so you can put, if you want to create a dynamic button kind of thing, so you can make use of this button, okay, this block, and you can put it over here like this. So when you will run this, right now this button is not visible to us anywhere on this mobile simulator, but when you will run this app, you will be able to see a button over here. Okay, so these are dynamic elements which we see or which a user is able to see during the runtime, but at the designing time or at the coding time, these buttons are not visible to us. Okay, if you now, what is the ID of this button which has got created over here? The ID of this button is ID only. If you want to change the ID of this button, you can change it like this. Let's say button. Okay, so now the ID of this button which is getting reflected right now here on this screen is button. Now if you want to define some code for this button, how can you do that? So for doing that, again you guys can make use of this on event block. Suppose you want that when you click on this button, these three buttons should be visible to you. How can you do that? So first of all, what we can do, we can define an hide element block first for this visible button also. Okay, and now I'm coming down, and here when you click on this ID, what is going to happen? You will be able to see all the IDs of all the buttons which you have created during the designing time. But you will not be able to see the ID of this button which we have created just now. So this dynamic buttons ID will not be visible to you. So that is the reason for coding this, for coding this button that you have created here. What you have to do, you have to convert it back into text-based coding, and then you need to replace this ID with the ID of this dynamic button. So the ID of this dynamic button is this, that is button. And after this, you can put a show element block for all these three buttons. I would like to define this show element block now. What is the idea of this button? It is visible. and the ID of this one is a start, and the ID of this one is a stop. Okay, now let's hit this run button and see what is going to happen. So none of the three buttons is visible to us. The only button which is visible to us is this one, the dynamically created button. Let's hit this button and see whether we'll be able to fetch those three buttons which we have created using design block or not. See, all the three buttons are visible to us. So, you know, that's how you can create dynamic elements, and you can code them also using text-based coding. Fine. Now let's come on this part, controls part again, and see how can we make use of this set timeout block. So I'm putting this set timeout block over here inside this but on event block which I have defined for this button. So this code will get executed only after the user is done with hitting this button over here. Fine. I would like that this element, this start button, this visible button should go hidden after a certain amount of time. So for doing that, what I can do, I can make use of this hide element property, and I can put it over here. And when you will hit this, and from here you can select this visible button. Now what will happen, that's what we need to check. So for doing that, we can hit this run button. At present, none of the three buttons are visible to us. Let's hit this dynamic button and see what is going to happen. So all the three buttons are visible to us, and see that visible button has got disappeared, and it is now no more visible to us. Why it has happened? Just because we have defined a set timeout block for the hidden element property of this button. Now, what is this set timeout block doing? It is hiding this visible button after 1 second. The time which you are seeing over here, it is in millisecond. So it is 1000 millisecond, which is visible to you right now. If you want to increase the time, you can do it like this.
So
Now it is
60,000 milliseconds
10,000
is equals
milliseconds.
to 1 minute.
Better 10,000 milliseconds is equal to 1 second. Okay, now it is 10,000 seconds. So what will happen? If you will click this button, automatically this button is going to go disappear after 10 seconds. Let's wait for this button to get disappear. See, the button is now no more visible to us. So that's how you can make use of this set timeout block. Okay, now let's hit this reset button for resetting the app. Now suppose if you want to, right now, if you will click on this start button, the value of X is incrementing. Okay, after 1 second it is incrementing. If you want the value of this X should change, if you want to increase the speed, so you can change the timings of this timed loop. Now this is the result that you will get to see here. See, the speed has now increased. The speed with which the value of X is increasing, it has now changed. Similarly, if you want to change it, if you want to increase it more, if you want to see it like this, see. So, that's how you can make the changes in this timed loop. Now, if suppose, let's make use of this timed loop for generating the dynamic elements. What we are going to do now, we are going to make use of this timed loop for generating the dynamic elements. So if suppose you have defined, if you will define a timed loop like this, okay, and inside this timed loop, if you will define a button like this, okay, Now, what is going to happen if you will run the app? So you can see that there are some dynamic buttons which are getting created automatically on the screen. Are you all able to see this thing or not? Are you all able to see these dynamic buttons? So you know
Yes, sir.
that's how you can create such beautiful things using this timed loop. So
Yes,
these
sir.
are dynamic buttons which are getting generated automatically, okay, after a time interval of 1 second. Now, if you want to increase the speed of this thing, you can decrease the amount of time here, and this is what you will get to see. Okay, now why this error message is getting reflected over here? Because the ID of the buttons which are getting generated, the ID
The
of
ID
this
is repeated.
button is also
So,
ID. Now, if you want to generate the buttons with different IDs, how can you do that? So for doing that, the best thing is you guys can make use of a variable. See, we have already made use of this variable x over here. So when you will hit this start button, the value of x is going to get incremented by 1, right? So in place of this ID, you can put x over here. Now what will happen when you'll run this app and you will hit this start button? So the ID of this button, this button, this button will be different. Now the dynamic buttons which are getting created over here, they are of different IDs. Okay, so that's how you can make use of this timed loop for creating dynamic buttons having different IDs. Okay, I'm done with my part. You guys can now ask your queries if
Can
you
I
have
ask?
any. One by one you have to ask, dear.
sir,
Yes, who's this?
sir,
Abhinav, you would like to? Yes, Abhinav, please go ahead, dear.
Sir, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, Abhinav, you're very audible to me, dear.
Sir, can you, instead of creating so many buttons, can we only create like 20? Can you
We
set
can
a
do
code
that
like
also.
that?
Yes, we can do that also. We can set
Sir,
the value of x is equals to 20. We
okay,
can
sir.
put an if loop. No, we can put a if loop. Right now, what you're trying to do, you are trying to put a validation on the variable. So we can make use of if loop. If x is greater than
sir,
20, then this timed loop should stop. In that way, we can generate only 20 dynamic elements
sir,
over here.
Okay,
Who
sir.
else want to ask?
sir,
No,
me,
I want.
Naman.
Yes, Naman, please go ahead, dear.
Sir, is the code.org platform like you made an application like the timer? Is it scrollable?
Yes, you can make it scrollable also, dear.
Sir, can you tell how?
I will take it in the next lecture, dear. Definitely, I'm going to take it in the next
Okay,
lecture.
sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Is there any other query? And
Yes,
Naman,
sir.
it will be good if you can WhatsApp me your query, dear, so that I can remember it and I can make a note of it somewhere. Okay, Naman?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Himarsha, you want to ask something, dear?
Yes, sir. So, if we in the previous app we created, it had text inputs and many other.
Himarsha, can you please speak loudly? I'm barely able to hear you, dear.
Oh, yes. So, in the previous app we created, we had text inputs and all this sort of functions. So, when I just scroll down in the design toolbox, I came familiar with photo select sliders and some other things which I'm not
Okay.
even familiar to. So are we going to cover them in other lectures?
Definitely, dear. Definitely, we'll cover them. We are going to cover each and every, we are going to do each and everything, whatever is there in this app lab. Okay, so don't worry about anything. Okay.
Okay.
Excuse
Is
me,
there any
sir.
other query?
Excuse me, sir.
Beta, can you please, what is your name?
Sir,
Who's
Raghav.
this? Raghav, you want to ask something? Yes, Raghav, please go ahead, dear.
Sir, in this app, we are getting output in seconds. When 60 seconds are completed, ma'am, sir, it is going in seconds only. Can we do it that after completing 60 seconds, 1 minute is there and the second goes like in actual timer?
1 minute is there, like second goes. We need to put a validation then, dear. We can make use of if loop for that. We can make use of the if loop for doing something like that.
The if loop
Okay,
would be
but it
like,
is a,
it means
if suppose if the value of x, if the value of x is equals to 60, then the label box should the text which should get reflected in the label box should be 1 minute. So that's
yes.
how we can put a if loop on the label box that we have used for getting that value of x reflected. That's how we can do it. It is very easy. Whatever things are coming in your mind, you have the solution of that question of yours, but you have to search for it in your own mind. You have to think about the solution. Is there any other query? Is there anything else you guys want to ask from me?
So can we apply only number condition to text inputs?
Yes, we can do that also, dear. We can do
So,
that
but
also.
if other users are using our app and they try a random number pattern, and
So
if we want,
in that way, what we can do, see, in that case, what we can do, instead of passing a hardcore value over here, na dear, if you want to take the input from the user, so you guys can make use of this block, no? This is the one where x is equals to prompt num. So what will happen when you will run the app? Just a second, let me remove this whole thing from here first. Now when you will run the app, see, so now the user has to input a value over here. Click OK, and then you need to, now the timer is started from 67. It didn't started from 0. It started from 67. So that's how the user can input his own value, whatever time you want to start the timer from.
so it
Is it clear
is
to you, dear?
yes, sir. But
So this,
as
Marsha, only 1 minute is left, dear. Less than 1 minute is left. So whatever your query is, you can WhatsApp me on my WhatsApp number. Okay, and please do practice these things on your devices also. Okay, so as to get a more good understanding of each and everything. I'm going to share
I
the
keep
code with you guys on
practicing
your
of it
WhatsApp
as
number.
well.
Sorry, Himanshu.
I keep practicing whatever it we are learning
Excellent,
and
excellent.
sort of this.
If it is so, then it is excellent. So I'm going to share the code, whatever